Welcome students, Mr. Balkold here. Today we're going to go over how to write your introductions for your editorial. Your editorial introduction needs three things. Number one, you need to hook your reader, grab your reader's attention, give them a reason to continue reading. Number two, you need to provide necessary background information that your reader needs to know. And then number three, and perhaps most importantly, you are going to provide your claim, your central idea in your argument. So we're going to go ahead and look at 5 students who have won this essay or have won this contest in the past. We're going to learn from them. Let's see how they accomplished all 3 of those. Okay, so this one comes from Sophie Ding. Her essay is Lessons on Failure. She was one of the top winners on the 7th annual one. So let's scroll down and see how she wrote her introduction. There it is. Among the countless 100s, I see it. A 37, a hideous black mark in the grade book. I had to nearly restrain my mother from pouncing on the phone to call my teacher. Let me handle it, I said. Uneasily and reluctantly, she did. Thankfully, she is not a snowplow parent. So let's pause right there. That's only part of her introduction. That is her hook. She starts off with a personal anecdote, her own story. And it's a really powerful story. It's a story that many other students can relate to. Let me tell you more about why I like it. I love this first sentence. It's short, it's powerful, and it leaves us as readers like, whoa, what is it? And so we have a lot more reasons for reading. I love short, powerful sentences as the very first sentence. You're going to notice many students do the same thing. I love this sentence right there. Among the countless 100s, I see it, a 37. I love the use of the colon right here, a sophisticated sentence. I also love that it's very precise. And I love how she describes it very vividly. We can see it. And now I can see this interaction between student and parent, and it is incredible. Now she transitions over to the topic of her essay, snowplow parenting. So she uses this hook to grab her reader's attention. She then transitions into her topic, which is snowplow parents. And the next paragraph, she is going to give us necessary background information and her claim. You're going to notice that many of these students don't put their entire introduction in one paragraph, like the standard 5-paragraph essay. They use as many paragraphs as they need in order to accomplish it. Sometimes it's 1 paragraph, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it spills even into the 3rd. There is no real formula. You just need to accomplish 3 things: hook, background information, thesis, or claim. So now let's move on to our next paragraph. According to the article in the New York Times, snowplow parents clear the road for their children to chug ahead on their perfect path to success. It's why some students turn in homework handwritten by middle-aged adults, why a sophomore girl's dad picks up her period before every math test, why lunches flood the main office delivered by parents for thoughtful students. My parents never did that. Perhaps students are all too happy to have their parents control their lives, or maybe parents don't listen to the run. Oh, well, blah, I am broken this morning. I am sorry. I need more caffeine in my system. Hold on. That's not enough. Okay, we got this now. Perhaps students are all too happy to have their parents control their lives, or maybe parents don't listen and need to run the show. Here is the thesis. Both need to rethink their positions. Okay, necessary background information right here. What snowplow parents are. We have a definition according to the New York Times. We have several examples of snowplow parenting, and then we have an idea of what students need to do differently and what parents need to do differently. Here is our thesis. Students and parents need to rethink their positions on snowplow parenting. Well done, Sophie. That caffeine is already hitting, or maybe it's a placebo. I don't know. Let's move on to our next essay. This one comes from Alexander Lee, one of the 9 winners. I believe it was from 2000 and, oh, where'd it go? 2000. So this is one of the last years. And Alexander Lee is going to do Not American Yet. So let's go ahead and see how this student starts their essay. A few weeks ago, my friend arrived at our lunch table in tears. Already, I'm interested. What's going on? What happened with those tears? Why is someone, what's going on? That is a wonderful first sentence. She'd come from physician education class where a group of white classmates called her coronavirus for her Chinese heritage. It hurt my friend who hadn't heard from her relatives in Wuhan. That incident wasn't isolated. Other Asian American students were targeted for their ethnicity at our middle and high schools. Throughout February and March, similar scenes played out at schools across the country with Asian American students insulted and harassed by other students. Wow. Okay. So I love that first sentence. I love it because it didn't start with the insult. It didn't start with that. Like, it's like, I'm really interested now why this student is crying during lunch at school. And that was a wonderful way, wonderful first sentence. Then we have necessary background information about what caused it, a little bit more of the story, and then a few more examples of the story. So these stories, it'll do 2 things. Number 1, they serve as background information. Number 1, they serve as the hook of the sentence, of the introduction, and number 2, they provide necessary background information. Now let's see how the student transitions into their claim. One might think that this behavior reflects the numerous anxieties Americans face due to the coronavirus pandemic, including economic insecurity. But my community is affluent and well-educated, and my neighborhood dotted with lawn signs saying, hate has no more home. So more background information saying, hey, these aren't isolated. There's a little bit more going on here. This doesn't just have to do with the pandemic. This might be talking about wider trends in America. Now we have our thesis or claim. Instead, the coronavirus-fueled bias against Asian Americans is symptomatic of a wider phenomenon, American society has always regarded Asian Americans as non-American. Wonderful claim right here. This is the main idea of this student's essay. I really like the sentence structure. I love the colon right here. The coronavirus-fueled bias against Asian Americans is symptomatic of a wider phenomenon. I love the idea symptomatic right here. It's kind of a play upon kind of a pun right there, talking about the coronavirus, and I love this sentence structure. This is phenomenal, phenomenal. American society has always regarded Asian Americans as non-American. That's the thesis, that's the claim. The rest of the essay, the student is going to prove that or give examples of it. Okay, well done, Alexander. Let's move on to our next one. This one comes from 2019, so this is the contest 2 years ago. Let's see what Eva has done. Now, I've read this one to you before, but I want to go over it again, and I want you to see how she uses 3 strategies that I really like for her introduction. Okay, so her claim for this one is to adapt national health insurance. Let's see how she leads us into that. Let's look for her hook, background information, and then her claim. Students, U.S. citizens are dying and we can save them. I have a luxury that 27.3 million Americans don't, health insurance. That first sentence is gold. Let me tell you why. One strategy that she used is she used a very provocative statistic that not too many people know. And she started off with that statistic, and it's jarring, and it's like, whoa, what's going on here? I want to know more about that statistic. Maybe you can start with an alarming statistic. The next thing that she did is she has a relatively short, powerful sentence. This isn't a long sentence. It's not really short, but it's not very long either. I love that right there. Now, the other thing that she did is she brought in a personal anecdote. She's now telling her story. So she starts with a short sentence. She starts with a powerful statistic, and she uses her personal story, a personal anecdote, to make this more interesting. She goes on, this is very powerful here. Without it, my family would be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, or I'd be dead. The next part of this, she's going to give us background information by juxtaposing her story with somebody else's story. She kind of puts them together. We can weigh them out. And this highlights the issues beautifully. So personal narrative, someone else's story, juxtaposition, background information, and it really leads well into her claim. In June of 2017, my blood became dangerously acidic and my kidneys started to fail. I went to the ER. In June of 2007, when Alec Rashaw Smith's blood also became dangerously acidic, he died before anyone could save him. Alec didn't have to die, though. The insulin prescribed for his type 1 diabetes could have saved him from the diabetic ketoacidosis that killed him. Alec, who had recently turned 26, could no longer afford his insulin because he was kicked off his mother's insurance plan, unable to afford the $1,300 a month for his insulin. He turned to rationing the insulin and died within 1 month of becoming uninsured. In the weeks after both of our incidents with acidosis, I went back to hanging out with friends and enjoying the summer. Meanwhile, Alec's family was left making funeral arrangements. Powerful stories juxtaposed to each other, provides the necessary background information, also makes it very personal, and it makes it so we care. Now we lead on to this thesis, to the claim. There is only one thing to prevent innocent people like Alec from dying, adopt national health insurance. You're noticing a lot of these students are using the colon structure. Maybe I should do a mini lesson on colons and give that to you. I think I will. I will have one of those coming up sometime soon. Colons are phenomenal ways to introduce thesis statements. Well done. All right, let's move on to our next one. This student is one of the winners last year, but this is a junior high student. This kid is only 12. If my 11/almost 12-year-old wrote like this, I might approve of my own child. I would take that back. I love my son. Josh is a phenomenal kid. But check this student out. 12 years old, writing this well. He employs the same strategies that I'm telling you. Number one, hook your reader. Number two, background information. Number three, claim. So let's go ahead and see what we have. Switching letters, skipping lines, troubled and dyslexic minds. Holy cow, Hayden, your title. Whew, I love the internal rhyme. Not the internal rhyme, but the slant rhyme with that. I love the flow, the pattern. That is a phenomenal title. Let's move on. I looked down at my book, he writes. I slowly read the first line of jumpy letters that won't stay still. It takes me a minute to find the next line as my eyes jump around. This is a repeating process until I'm at the end of the page. This doesn't just happen to me. It happens to 70 to 80% of dyslexic students in schools, and yet schools aren't providing resources, teachers aren't getting trained, and people don't even really understand dyslexia. Well done, Hayden. I love this right here. Personal experience starts off to grab the reader's attention. Next thing, it's really short. Right there, background information. It happens to 70, 80% of dyslexic students in school. So he starts off with this personal story, tells us that this is a big problem, providing background information, and then he moves on into his claim. Now, this is a bit of a run-on sentence. We're going to give him a pass because he's only 12, but he has his thesis right here. Schools aren't providing resources, teachers aren't getting trained, and people don't even really understand dyslexia. He's got a 3-point thesis statement right here. Wonderful job, Hayden. Now, I would rearrange this. I would say people don't understand dyslexia. I think that is more logically the first one. And in fact, his essay starts off with that. So I would ask him to rearrange his thesis. People don't understand dyslexia. Teachers aren't getting trained and they're not providing. I would just rearrange the order right there and maybe break this up into 2 sentences. But other than that, Hayden, well done. If you were my child, I would accept you. I take that. That's really a harsh thing to say. Hayden, well done. Well done. Okay, and then the last one we're going to go over. This one, John Abel. We've read this one several times. I've referenced it. It's really good. But Abel John does a great job With another strategy, he doesn't use a personal story. He starts off with something different. And I want you to see that this is a great strategy too. Also, I want you to notice that Abel breaks with bringing the thesis or his main claim in at the end of his introduction. He actually brings it in at the very end of his essay, which is an interesting rhetorical choice that worked. So, Collar the Cat, he starts off with his hook, Collar the Cat. Tom and Jerry's television gold, its basic premise of the cat chases mouse, glued generations of kids to the screen. Wonderful. I'm just interested that he's referenced a pop culture show that we all know. You can use this strategy for your own essay. Start with a well-known pop culture reference. Well, that was a redundant sentence right there. It's well-known pop culture, popular. Okay, start with the pop culture reference, something that everybody knows that's really interesting. Bring that in. So now he's going to transition from Tom and Jerry to his topics of birds. Yet, unlike Tom, house cats are ruthless predators that almost always catch their prey. Well, he transitions into cats, really. Sorry. Unlike Tom, house cats are ruthless predators that almost always catch their prey. So now we have a transition from his hook to his topic, which is cats. And now we have necessary background information provided by I think this one got he used this from the New York Times. New research shows that house cats are unsustainably clawing their way through bird populations across the United States. In fact, more birds die by cats than collisions with buildings, cars, and other anthropogenic activities combined. So, we've got a really interesting hook, pop culture reference. Transition into his topic, and then the research, which provides the necessary background information. Now, you'll notice that John's thesis comes really at the end. Right here, he's saying we should put collars on the cat. That he didn't put that at the beginning of his essay, he put it at the end. That's an interesting rhetorical choice. I just wanted you to see that there's not one set, rigid formula for writing. You need to accomplish a few certain goals, and you can do those however it is that you want. Okay, so now you're going to write your own introduction. Make a copy of this APA template right here. This is what you've got. We're going to worry about the references later. Don't worry about that right now. Let's just worry about our introduction. Before we do that, let's go ahead. Title. Don't title your paper yet. Leave it till the very end. The title, you wait till the very end. Just type your name right there, name of the school or institution, new aims, and then the date. Type in today's date. I don't really care. And then this is where your title's going to be. Don't worry about your title yet. And now start typing your introduction. 3 things, folks. Hook your reader. Provide background information. And argue your claim. Okay, folks, as always, this is Mr. Bockelt. Keep reading, keep researching, keep writing, keep thinking. Take care.